Welcome to Career Channels, the official podcast of CareerSource North Florida. And now, on to the episode.
Welcome back to another episode of Career Channels. Today we're doing part 2 of our Job Seeker miniseries, and I'm back with some of our leadership here at CareerSource North Florida to discuss a few interview tips and tricks. Last time we started off with Diane. This time we're going to start off with Anthony. What are a few major things that you typically look for during an interview?
Well, it starts before the interview. For me, it starts what time they show up. Are they prepared when they show up for the interview? Are they showing up 5 minutes before or showing up right at the interview time? Then once they come into the interview room, if they're prepared, if they have their resume, and when we ask them questions, are they making eye contact with the whole room and not just that individual who asked the question? So I think that's kind of important to make sure they talk to everyone and make eye contact with everyone in the interview panel, just to reinforce their question or their answer. Yes.
Okay, anybody else have anything they want to add to that?
Just reiterate, definitely showing up a little early. You know, sometimes we have people who might come right on time or a few minutes after. It just doesn't look that great.
I will just piggyback on that and just say, show up.
Yeah.
Because I can tell you, for those who don't show up, when they reapply again in 2 months, we're not calling you in. Well, not.
Definitely makes sense. So, what's been one of the biggest challenges you've seen regarding the interview process or conducting an interview?
For me, oversharing. Some applicants, they get way too personal, and they don't focus enough on the question, so they go off on a personal story. It's okay to share personal stories to be relatable, but it should kind of loop back to why you'd be great for the job, not just a story about your whole life and what you did 20 years ago.
Anybody else want to add to it? Okay.
Wait, let's do that. Let me process that.
What's one of the biggest challenges you've seen regarding interviews?
I think the more you know about the interview, the better prepared you are, the more confident you are going in. Don't be scared to ask questions to whoever calls and sets up the appointment with you. Ask, is this going to be a one-on-one interview, or is this a panel interview? Is this going to be formal interview? Is this going to be whatever questions you might have about it, can even ask, what should I wear to the interview? Should I wear what I'm gonna wear to work, or should I dress up? Whatever you might have a question about that's going to relieve some of that anxiety or nervousness the day of. Take some of that
out of the equation.
Out of the equation, so you don't have to think about it.
Even because like mock interview and preparation, like you said, you were preparing to your statements or preparing something, just to talk and be prepared, because it's been a while for a lot of them who've done interviews.
And a lot of people don't seem to realize that CareerSource can actually provide those mock interviews to help improve interview skills. So let's look back to some of these questions. We've already gone over a couple of them, but what are some of the common mistakes regarding interviews that you guys have seen?
So some of the common things I see is applicants don't research the company they're trying to work for. We ask one of the questions of, why do you want to join our family? And we all know everyone wants to go to work, and no one knows how to answer the question when it's asked, do you know what the job entails? Did you read the job request? And the answer is no. I kind of glazed through it. It's, you really need to know what you're applying for and what you're interviewing for. That seems to be one of the major ones I've noticed. The other things are some etiquette items, like when you come into the interview, Anthony has already hit on it, shake the person's hand, eye contact, but where's your cover letter? Where's your updated resume? Because things have changed since you submitted your resume, and providing that contextual item for the panel to look at. The other thing that are distractors is having electronic devices that haven't been silenced, that haven't been stowed away. That is a distraction because it sets not only the interview panel off, it also sets the applicant from being comfortable, because now they've gone from I'm interviewing to now I gotta answer my phone. And that is, as someone who interviews as a hiring manager, that's like a big no-no in my book during an interview. And then following up with a thank you note, whether that's something in mail or email, just saying, hey, thanks for your time. I know that's old school, but that tends to set people out from everyone else. That's just off to the side. And
So I'm gonna enter, so I had that written down, I had thank yous question mark written down. What's your take on it? Yours is yes.
Yes,
What
I
do you
don't
think?
think we've ever really received that many.
not many.
Yeah.
Not many, but I think it's nice when they send that, it shows like a level of, it might be old school, but it's an old school professionalism.
Does it ever
Sounds like
change
it.
your mind?
It might because it's follow up.
I take them more serious, they really want it and they've researched what they should do, the steps they should take to try to be the best they can through the interview process. So I mean, maybe put something like a little higher.
And the only other thing I might say is they're knowing the customer or the applicant knowing the why. Why are you applying for work, and being able to explain that why, other than we know you need a job. What's the why? Why this field? Why this industry? Why this company? Why? If you can't explain it, it's really hard for an interviewer or a hiring manager to discern what you're looking for.
I think if they were already a no, they'd probably still be a no if we got a thank you. But if there were two yeses, they might be a yes.
Was that 3 years? But I think one point that Debbie was talking about was family, and how when they come in, they fail sometimes to ask questions. You're gonna be here 8 to 9 hours a day. You're joining someone's team that you know nothing about. In that 10-minute or 20-minute interview, find out who you're working for, what that person's like, what's your average day, ask those questions.
All sound advice. And speaking of advice, what's one piece of advice, just a single piece, that you might give to someone looking to improve their interview
I have a
skills?
list, it's never just one, seriously. So the first thing I wrote down was alignment. And so alignment between what your resume looks like, what your interview is like, what your follow through is like. Alignment, which goes back to knowing who you are. If you seem really well put together on your resume, but you come into your interview and you're kind of all over the place, let's step back slowly, seriously. But I think really knowing who you are and what you want out of this experience is very valuable. And don't come in and say, I'm a people person. Because you're probably not. Know who you really are and what value you can really provide to the organization. Stop talking about I and say we, or the company or the organization, us. I think that is very important, because I want to know what's in it for me. I am that selfish. Tell me why you fit here. What am I gonna get out of it? So not I, but from the other perspective, you, how can I help this organization? And that goes back to researching the organization and where my goals align with the organization's goals and why this is a good fit. So that's a lot. But I also agree with Caroline, don't get too personal. That's, when I ask you, I won't ask you a random question like, tell me about yourself. I don't need to know what day you were born and what hospital you were born in. And I don't need to know your children's names. I'm sure they're wonderful, but I want to know, I'm really asking you where you see yourself and how you see yourself here. So,
I think the other thing people do is they do age themselves, so to speak. So I graduated from high school in 1973. I don't need to know that. I don't want to know that. And the reason I don't want to know that is because it's not relevant. You got your high school diploma, great. That's what I need to know. I don't care when. I also don't need. None of us want to know your medical nothing, and a lot of people in interviews will lay out their entire medical without being asked. Just lay it out there, and that is not. That's not.
I need a job, so I have insurance.
Right. That's just not something to be done in an interview. That's a whole different conversation for a whole different topic, and that's not at the interview time. I would rather have someone ask me at the first interview, hey, what's the pay like? And I would rather answer that question because I can answer it. I can't do anything with medical concerns. They're important, but not important at the interview if it's not relevant. So.
Okay, so to recap everything we've talked about, some of the major things interviewers tend to look for is showing up and showing up on time. Some of the major challenges have been either oversharing or information not being relevant. Common mistakes, there's a number of them, but just providing the information that's relatable to the position you're needing or you're applying for. And the advice, there is so much that CareerSource North Florida can give. All you have to do is ask for it. So if you or someone you know is looking for help with improving their interview skills, please call us at 850-973-9675 or go to careersourcenorthflorida.com and we'll connect you with one of our talented specialists and get you started. Keep an eye out for our next episode where we will be discussing interview attire and follow-up. Thank you all for joining us, and remember, you can find your career path here with Career Channels.
You've been listening to Career Channels, the official podcast of CareerSource North Florida. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. To learn more about CareerSource North Florida and the services they provide, visit careersourcenorthflorida.com. That's careersourcenorthflorida.com. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll be back soon with a new episode.